Value. It's a word we hear all the time in healthcare, right? But what does it actually mean? I mean, really. It's kind of the billion-dollar question, and it's shaping everything, from your next doctor's visit all the way to the future of the entire health system. So let's dive right in and unpack this battle for the heart of healthcare. So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll dig into this whole battle over the word value. Then, we're going to look at two big competing worldviews that are really at the core of this whole thing. We'll see how those ideas shape the care you get, and then we'll explore a totally different way of looking at the system. And to wrap it all up, we'll check out some amazing real-world examples of how this can be done right. All right, so let's get right to the heart of the problem. Value-based healthcare. You've probably heard that phrase, right? It's become the buzzword in healthcare reform. I mean, everyone's talking about it. Policymakers, insurance companies, even your local clinic. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Almost no one seems to agree on what value actually means. And this isn't just some abstract debate, you know? This question affects every single one of us. Think about it for a second. For your own health or for your family's health, what does good value even look like? Is it just about finding the cheapest doctor? Or is it about the one with the best success rates? Or is it something else completely? You know, what's really fascinating is that this whole argument, it's not new. Not at all. We're talking over 100 years ago. William Mayo, yeah, that Mayo, from the Mayo Clinic, he basically said that value should come from one single thing. Everyone working together with the patient at the absolute center of it all. It's such a simple, powerful idea, and it's still what we're all debating today. Okay, so if the idea is so simple, why is there all this confusion? Well, the source material we're digging into today argues that it all boils down to two completely different ways of seeing the world. They're called mental frames, and they basically shape our entire understanding of what value even is. So on one side, you've got what's called the business frame. This worldview looks at healthcare through an economic lens, right? It's all about return on investment, profits, efficiency. The language is all about products, services, and customers. But then, on the other side, you have the humanistic frame. And this one is all about patient goals, their overall well-being, fairness, and teamwork. It's a total clash of priorities. They're not even speaking the same language. And it's really important to get this. These frames aren't just, different opinions. They're like complete operating systems for your brain. They set the rules for how you even think about a problem. Your mental frame literally determines which solutions seem possible and which ones seem ridiculous. So when you apply two totally different frames to a problem as huge as healthcare, well, you're going to get two wildly different sets of answers. Okay, so this might sound a little abstract, but believe me, it has massive real-world consequences. The frame that wins out, that's what directly shapes our entire healthcare system. It determines the kind of care that you and I actually get. A perfect example of this in action is just looking at how we pay for care, right? Take fee-for-service. That's where doctors get paid for every single thing they do. The incentive there? Quantity. Do more stuff, get paid more. Then there's capitation. A provider gets a fixed amount of money per patient. The incentive there? Efficiency. And then there are outcomes-based models, which try to hit that sweet spot between quality and efficiency. See how each model is basically a direct result of a different set of values? But let's talk about the unintended consequences, because they're huge. That fee-for-service model, it lines up perfectly with the business frame's focus on transactions. But it can easily lead to what they call overutilization. You end up getting more tests, more procedures, but the care itself can start to feel really fragmented, like no one's talking to each other. And then on the flip side, you have that capitation model. It's designed for efficiency, sure, but it has its own big risk. The pressure to control costs can sometimes lead to underutilization, meaning a patient might not get a test or a referral that they actually need. It really just shows you that constant push and pull between saving money and taking care of the patient in front of you. So if messing with the individual pieces, like how we pay for things, just creates these new problems, what do we do? Well, the source material suggests something pretty radical. It says we need to completely shift our perspective. We have to stop trying to fix the individual parts and start looking at the entire system as one whole thing. And this brings us to this really key idea. It's the concept of a complex adaptive system, or CAS. Now, I know that sounds like some super technical jargon, but it's actually a pretty simple idea. It just means a system where you can't change one little part without affecting everything else. It's all connected. The behavior of one piece depends on the behavior of all the other pieces. Think about it like an orchestra. It's the perfect analogy. You can't make the music better by just yelling at the violinists to play faster, right? That would just be a disaster. It'd be chaos. To get that beautiful symphony, everyone has to be connected, they have to be listening to each other, and most importantly, they all have to be playing from the same sheet of music. They need a shared purpose. The source uses another really cool metaphor for this, a vortex. For a system to work like a vortex, it needs three key things. First, it needs a focal point, a clear purpose right in the center that pulls everything in. Second, it needs a flexible structure, so all the pieces can connect and interact. And third, it needs constant feedback, so all the parts can adapt and react to each other in real time. And this all leads to a really powerful, maybe even a little shocking conclusion. If we don't like the results we're getting from our healthcare system, the high costs, the frustrated patients, the burned out doctors, it's not because the system is broken. It's because the system is perfectly designed to get the exact results it's getting. So if we want to change the outcomes, we have to change the entire design of the system itself. Okay, so that's the theory. But what does this look like in the real world? What happens when a system is actually intentionally designed around a clear, human-centered purpose? Well, let's look at 4 absolutely fantastic examples of organizations that are already doing this. First up, let's go back to the Mayo Clinic. Remember that quote from the very beginning? Their entire organization, everything from how they schedule appointments to their most advanced research, it's all built around one single non-negotiable value. The needs of the patient come first. That purpose is their focal point. It aligns every single part of their system. Okay, next, let's travel way up to Alaska and look at the Nuka Health System. What's incredible here is that it's owned and operated by the very indigenous community it serves. And for them, the purpose isn't just about treating sickness, it's about achieving total wellness, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. The community itself gets to define what value means. Now for a great story of evolution, look at the EDARP program in Nairobi. It actually started with a really narrow focus, just caring for people with HIV and AIDS. But, and this is the key part, they kept listening to their patients. And because they listened, the system evolved. It grew into this amazing, comprehensive primary care system, built from the ground up, based entirely on what the community actually needed. And finally, let's scale this up to an entire country. Let's look at Costa Rica. Back in the 90s, they completely redesigned their national healthcare system. They built it around these core pillars, things like integrated public health and teams based right in the community. And by defining their core purpose as guaranteeing the health of your people, they created a system that gets better health outcomes for a lower cost. Pretty amazing. This great quote from the management guru Peter Drucker just nails the central conflict we've been talking about. The business frame is obsessed with doing things right, making the process more efficient. But the humanistic frame forces us to ask a much deeper, more important question. Are we actually doing the right thing in the first place? So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it's that creating a healthcare system that actually works for all of us, it isn't about finding some perfect, magical formula. It's about starting with a shared agreement on what we truly value. And that requires a massive mental shift. We have to stop seeing healthcare as just an expense to be cut and start seeing it as a long-term investment in all of us. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. If you had a totally blank slate, if you could design a healthcare system from scratch, what would you pick as its one single core purpose? Think about that, because whatever your answer is, that's where the future of healthcare really begins.